There is something curious about the fact that we live on a gigantic planet, full of languages, climates, cities, deserts, cultures, and histories, and yet we spend a large part of our lives trapped in a microscopic point on the map. We grow up among the same streets, meet the same people, answer to the same surnames we inherited, not the ones we chose, and somehow it seems that the world expects this to continue, as if the setting that received us were also the setting in which we must remain until the end. But life doesn't work very well when squeezed inside these expectations. At some point, sooner or later, almost everyone feels a strange and persistent urge to leave everything behind. Not a weak impulse, not a passing idea, but that internal call that sounds like a vibration that won't let the chest rest. A mute sentence that says, go away, start over, disappear for a while from what you know, change everything. After all, where does this desire come from? Is it escape? Is it courage? Is it despair? Or is it perhaps one of the most honest things we can feel in life? Let's go deep into this. Everyone has felt at least once the urge to throw a few clothes into a backpack and head toward the first bus that appears without looking back. Sometimes everything has a clear reason, a relationship that soured, a sequence of failures that feels bigger than you, a city that became too small for your questions, a routine that no longer speaks to your soul. Other times, the feeling arrives without warning. It comes as an emptiness, a restlessness with no shape. You look at your life and think, there's nothing exactly wrong, but there's also nothing really breathing here. And here's what nobody tells you. Sometimes the absence of disaster is its own kind of hell. At least rock bottom has a floor. But this slow erosion of meaning, this gradual dimming of whatever fire used to burn in your chest, this is worse. Because you can't even justify your suffering. You can't point to the wound and say, look, here's why I'm bleeding. You wake up, you perform, you smile at the right moments, you answer fine when people ask how you are, and somewhere underneath all of that, a part of you is screaming into a void that nobody else can see. You're drowning in a room full of people and they're all talking about the weather. Psychology has several names for this impulse. One is the instinct for renewal. Another is environmental fatigue. There is even a behavioral hypothesis suggesting that human beings, despite imagining themselves as stable, are creatures deeply shaped by movement. Our ancestral brain learned to live by walking, migrating, exploring. A static life, in a way, collides with that ancient architecture. But let's be brutally honest, it's more than just biology. It's the suffocating realization that you've become a ghost in your own life. You're haunting the same places, repeating the same patterns, saying the same things to the same people who stopped really seeing you years ago. They see the version of you they've decided you are. And the worst part? You started to believe them. Someone might say we are a species that lives in fixed houses but with nomadic souls. And someone else might say that this desire to leave is more human than paying bills. It's almost a vocation. It's the body's wisdom trying to tell you something your mind refuses to hear. You're dying here. Not physically, worse, spiritually. Many people experience this urge to leave everything behind precisely when they are in ruins. I myself have felt this, and not just once. A period of depression, the end of a relationship that seemed to drain all meaning from the calendar, the feeling of walking in circles in an environment that only reminded me of where I had failed. Anyone who has lived this knows. The entire city turns into a living archive of what went wrong. Every corner becomes a bad memory. Every cafe recalls a specific day. Every person you meet seems to carry a piece of your past that you no longer want to touch. And then the impulse to flee arises. The thought that says, if I change places, maybe I'll change too. If I disappear, maybe I'll find myself again. But it goes deeper than memory. Your city becomes a mirror reflecting back every version of yourself you've tried to kill. That bar where you used to pretend to be happy, that street where you walked home alone at 3 a.m. wondering if anyone would care if you didn't wake up, that park bench where you had the conversation that ended everything. The buildings don't just hold memories, they hold judgments. The walls have witnessed your failures. The sidewalks remember your stumbles. Even the air feels like it's been breathed too many times by too many versions of you that didn't work out. And the people? God, the people. They freeze you in time. To your family, you're still the child who disappointed them in some fundamental way. To old friends, you're the person who never quite lived up to whatever potential they imagined you had. To strangers, you're invisible, just another face in the crowd, another background character in their story. You realize you're not living, you're serving a life sentence in a prison where the bars are made of expectations and the guards are people who claim to love you. Psychology calls this the rupture heuristic. The idea that by drastically changing the environment, we also trigger the sensation of a new beginning. It's almost like pressing a reset button in the brain. The problem is that the reset is not complete because there's one part that always travels with us, ourselves. But that doesn't make the impulse invalid. It makes it human. And maybe it makes it necessary. There is a silent logic behind the desire to leave. When life stagnates, movement becomes salvation. When pain repeats itself, distance becomes relief. When the past weighs heavy, geography becomes an anesthetic. And even though we rationally know that changing places doesn't change who we are, there is something psychologically powerful about encountering new environments, new routines, new people who don't know our history. But let's talk about what happens when you don't leave, when you stay because you're supposed to, when you convince yourself that leaving would be irresponsible, selfish, cowardly, when you build a life that looks acceptable from the outside while you're slowly suffocating on the inside. You develop this peculiar skill, functional depression. You learn to operate at 30% capacity while convincing everyone, including yourself sometimes, that you're fine. You master the art of the hollow smile, the empty laugh, the conversation that goes nowhere but takes up time. You start measuring your life in obligations instead of desires. Monday blurs into Tuesday, blurs into another year gone by. You celebrate birthdays that feel like funerals for the person you thought you'd become. You attend events you don't care about with people you don't connect with, performing the social rituals that supposedly prove you're a functioning adult. And somewhere deep down, so deep you barely let yourself acknowledge it, you know you're not building a life, you're building a coffin. A very comfortable, socially acceptable coffin, but a coffin nonetheless. The worst part? Everyone congratulates you. You're so stable, they say. You've really got your life together. And you smile and thank them. And inside you're screaming, this isn't stability, this is stagnation. This isn't having my life together, this is holding the pieces in place so nobody notices they don't fit. Social psychology speaks of something called narrative freedom. In simple terms, it means that the way others see us influences the way we see ourselves. When we are surrounded by the same people, with the same expectations, with the same memories about us, our identity ends up frozen. When we change places, we reload that identity from zero. It's not just escape, it's reconstruction. It's the chance to be someone other than the accumulation of your failures. The opportunity to exist without the constant weight of everyone's disappointed hopes for you. The possibility of becoming rather than remaining. Seneca said that traveling cures nothing because the mind travels with you. In part, he is right. You can't change countries to escape yourself, but there is something Seneca underestimated, the force that context exerts on the human brain. He wrote, in a world without the internet, without gigantic cities, without sensory overload, without accelerated capitalism. Today, we live in an environment so artificial that changing spaces is sometimes not escape, but biological recalibration. Modern existence is violence, not the dramatic kind, the subtle kind, the kind that drains you so slowly you don't notice you're empty until one day you look in the mirror and wonder who the hell is looking back. We're overstimulated and understimulated simultaneously, bombarded with information that means nothing, connected to thousands but known by none. We work jobs that don't need to exist to buy things we don't need to impress people we don't like. We're told this is freedom, but it feels like the most elaborate prison ever constructed. Neuroscience shows that the brain responds to new environments with an increase in baseline dopamine. Novelty awakens a sense of possibility. Movement literally creates new neural pathways. So yes, changing places doesn't cure everything, but it can help loosen the rusted screws of the soul. Your brain is dying in familiarity. Every repeated pattern, every predictable day, every conversation you've had 1,000 times, it's all slowly calcifying your consciousness. The neural pathways become trenches, and you're stuck marching in the same mental circles until you can't remember what it felt like to think a new thought. But place yourself somewhere new, and suddenly you're forced awake. Every stimulus is fresh. Every interaction requires attention. You can't operate on autopilot when you don't know where you're going. Your brain has to engage, to adapt, to grow. You remember what it's like to be present instead of perpetually absent from your own life. There's also the philosophical side. Sartre said we are condemned to freedom. Beauvoir reinforced that life only gains meaning when we ourselves build it. Seen from this angle, leaving everything behind is not escape, it's affirmation. It's you saying to the world, I decide the direction. It's you tearing up the script that was handed to you and writing your own. And here comes the part few dare to admit. Sometimes staying is what's cowardly. Staying inside the bubble, staying inside the limited version of yourself, staying because it's safe, staying because others expect it. Leaving, in this sense, is a radical gesture of freedom. It's you reclaiming authority over your own narrative. It's not about happiness, it's about authenticity. Because what's the alternative? Spend the next 40 years pretending? Wake up at 65 having lived a life that was safe and small and entirely someone else's idea of what you should be? Die having never once taken the risk of becoming yourself? That's not safety, that's surrender. That's trading your one shot at existence for the comfort of other people's approval. And for what? So they can stand at your funeral and say nice things about how reliable you were? Since childhood, we fantasize about going beyond. We play with rockets, pirates, jungles. We create stories where we cross worlds. This imagination is not just childish play, it is the natural rehearsal of a brain shaped by millions of years of exploration. Our DNA knows movement better than it knows routine. That's why the desire to leave feels so natural. It's a return, not a rupture. But somewhere along the way, we're taught to suppress this. Grow up, they say. Be realistic. Stop dreaming. As if the desire to explore, to wander, to seek something beyond the familiar is somehow immature. As if the deepest human impulse, the very thing that led us to cover every inch of this planet, is something to be ashamed of. So we learn to kill that voice. We learn to ignore the call. We convince ourselves that the urge to leave is just dissatisfaction, just restlessness, just our inability to be content. We pathologize our own nature, and then we wonder why we feel dead inside. Children know something we forget. Wonder is not optional, it's essential. The capacity to imagine something beyond what is, the hunger to discover what lies past the horizon, the refusal to accept that this is all there is. That's not childishness. That's the only thing keeping us human in a world designed to turn us into machines. Every great human achievement started with someone refusing to stay where they were. Every discovery, every innovation, every transformation began with the impulse to leave the familiar and venture into the unknown. We celebrate explorers, pioneers, adventurers, and then we tell ourselves that ordinary life doesn't deserve that same courage. But your life is not ordinary. Your existence is not common. You are a conscious being in an infinite universe with one brief window of awareness, and you're spending it where? Doing what? For whom? So, is it right to leave? There is no universal answer, but there is a question that is worth everything. Are you leaving to escape who you are, or to discover who you could be? If the answer is the second, the world is ready for you. If it's the first, that's okay too. Sometimes escaping is necessary to survive. No one is born ready to face everything. But let me add another question, one that cuts deeper. What are you staying for? Really? Strip away the excuses, the rationalizations, the fears dressed up as responsibilities. What are you staying for? Is it love? Is it purpose? Is it genuine connection and growth? Or is it just inertia? Is it just fear? Is it just the paralyzing terror of admitting that you've been wrong about your life for years and change would mean confronting that? Because here's what nobody tells you. The pain of leaving is sharp and immediate. The pain of staying is dull and chronic. Leaving hurts like surgery. Staying hurts like a slow poison. And our brains are wired to avoid the sharp pain, even if it means enduring the slow death. You'll invent 1,000 reasons to stay. The job you hate pays the bills. The relationship that drains you has good moments sometimes. The city that sequesters you has everything you need. The life that's killing you is not that bad. Not that bad. Listen to yourself. You get one life, one, and you're settling for not that bad. The truth is that the desire to leave everything behind is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of excess lucidity. It's realizing that life is not a prison. It's remembering that the world is vast and that you have the right to experience more than the place where you grew up. Maybe none of us were made to remain on the same soil forever. Maybe the impulse to leave is confirmation that we are still alive. And maybe the feeling we carry in our chest when we think about leaving is our truest self trying to emerge. That voice that whispers, "Go," is not confusion, that's clarity breaking through. That's your actual self, the one buried under years of other people's expectations finally getting loud enough to be heard. That discomfort, that restlessness, that persistent dissatisfaction, that's not a problem to be solved. That's a message to be heeded. You're not broken for wanting to leave. You're awake. There is almost a perfect example of the impulse to abandon everything that does not come from cowardice, but from lucidity. Henry Thoreau. He didn't just think about leaving, he left. He left Concord, Massachusetts, and went to live alone for 2 years and 2 months in a cabin by Walden Pond. He took no luxury, no company, no expectations. He took only his restlessness and the almost physical desire to exist far from social noise. The world often treats his experience as minimalism, but that word is far too shallow. Thoreau didn't seek a simple life. He sought an essential life. And these are very different things. According to him, society creates noise that hides who we are. Excessive work, mechanical haste, consumption, inherited obligations, all of this works like a veil covering one's own consciousness. To truly see life, Thoreau believed it was first necessary to silence everything that was not life. And when he wrote this, he meant it literally. The cabin was not a metaphor, it was a cut, a surgical removal of everything that wasn't absolutely necessary. Not because those things were evil, but because they were obscuring something more fundamental, his own existence. Think about that. He walked away from everything considered important by society: career advancement, social status, comfort, entertainment, connection, not because he hated those things, but because he suspected they were preventing him from actually living. Modern psychology calls what he did social sensory deprivation, a deep withdrawal from the habitual environment to allow the brain to reorganize itself without invasive stimuli. Today we know that prolonged silence has measurable effects on cognition. It increases neuroplasticity, strengthens focus, and reveals internal patterns that usually remain hidden by routine. But it does something else too. It strips away your defenses. When you remove all the distractions, all the noise, all the social performances, you're left alone with the one thing you've been running from: yourself. Not the self you present to the world, not the self you wish you were, the actual self with all its fears and desires and contradictions. That's terrifying. And that's why so few people actually do it. Thoreau, without neuroscience, discovered this through his own skin. He realized that life, when reduced to the essential, confronts us with questions we avoid answering. Who am I when no one calls my name? What remains of me when the world demands nothing? What truly matters when life stops being a race and becomes presence? These questions are violent. They shatter illusions, and that is why so many people fear silence. In silence, the echo of one's own truth appears, and sometimes that truth is brutal. You've been living someone else's life. You've been following a script you never agreed to. You've been so busy performing that you forgot to exist. Thoreau did not flee society, he fled anesthesia. Leaving people behind was not escapism, it was surgery, an act of cutting away everything excessive, a radical gesture of honesty. He wanted to be someone who lives by choice, not by mechanical drift. When Thoreau wrote that the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation, he wasn't being poetic. He was describing what he saw by observing everyday life too closely. Quiet desperation is exactly that, being trapped in places, routines, and identities we did not choose, but carry as if they were fate. And here's the most brutal part. Most people know this. They feel it. Every morning when they hit snooze, every Sunday night when they dread Monday, every moment they catch themselves staring into space wondering, is this it? They know. They know they're living a life of quiet desperation. But knowing doesn't change anything, because change requires something most people can't muster: the willingness to disappoint everyone who expects you to stay the same. Thoreau decided to break that fate. He decided to abandon everything to listen to his own soul without interference. And most importantly, he returned. After 2 years, he returned to the city. And this is crucial to understanding his gesture. He did not live isolated forever because solitude was not the end, it was the instrument. For Thoreau, leaving was not denying the world, it was tuning it. It was bringing his own life into focus. It was purifying the gaze, cleaning perception, recovering meaning. He proved that leaving is not always a definitive act. Sometimes it's a dive, sometimes it's a pause. Sometimes it's the only way to keep living without betraying yourself. Sometimes you need to leave precisely so you can return, but return different, return clear, return actually alive instead of just going through the motions. Modern society is louder, faster, and more saturated than in the 19th century. If he already perceived invisible chains in his time, imagine what he would see now. We live in a world designed to prevent the exact kind of clarity Thoreau sought. Every app, every notification, every advertisement, every social obligation, it's all designed to keep you distracted, keep you consuming, keep you too busy to ask the dangerous questions. You're not supposed to stop and think. You're supposed to work, spend, scroll, repeat. You're supposed to chase the next promotion, the next purchase, the next validation from people whose approval won't matter when you're dying. The system needs you numb. It needs you too tired to rebel, too scared to leave, too distracted to notice that you're trading your finite existence for someone else's infinite profit. If Thoreau were alive today, he might be called crazy, eccentric, antisocial, radical, but he was simply sincere. Sincere enough to admit that ordinary life, when lived without questioning, becomes an automatic and almost dead ritual. And we are all living that automatic ritual. Wake up, scroll, work, scroll, eat, scroll, sleep, repeat. We mistake motion for meaning. We confuse busyness with purpose. We're so terrified of stillness that we fill every second with noise, because in the silence, we might hear the truth. This isn't living. This is just not dying yet. He left everything behind to recover the vigor of his own existence, and perhaps that is the deepest reason for our desire to leave. We don't want to escape. We want to return. Return to what is authentic, return to what is alive, return to what is ours, before the world shapes us so much that we no longer recognize who we are. You who made it this far are already part of this. You're reading these words because something in you knows. You know that the life you're living isn't the life you're meant for. You know that every day you stay is a day you're choosing safety over truth. And maybe that's okay for now. Maybe you're not ready yet. Maybe the fear is too big, the obligation's too real, the unknown too terrifying. That's human. But don't lie to yourself about what you're choosing. Don't dress up your fear in the costume of responsibility. Don't call your surrender being realistic. Own it. Say it plainly. I'm scared, so I'm staying. That's honest. That's at least honest. Because here's what will happen if you never leave. One day you'll wake up old. Your body will hurt in ways it didn't before. Your options will have narrowed. And you'll look back at your life and realize you spent it in a waiting room, waiting for permission that was never going to come, waiting to feel ready when there is no such thing as ready, waiting for the perfect moment that doesn't exist. And then you'll understand, too late, that the urge to leave everything behind wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. It was your deepest self trying to save you from a wasted life. The people who tell you to stay, to be practical, to stop dreaming, they're not wiser than you. They're more afraid. They stayed and now they need you to stay too, because your leaving would force them to confront their own cowardice. Don't let their fear become your life sentence. This channel is sustained by a rare community, lucid, courageous people who don't run from difficult questions. If you feel that you belong in this place, become a channel member. It's the most direct way to keep this project alive, and it also gives you access to exclusive content and dialogues. To those who are already members, thank you. You are the backbone of all this. And for those who seek more, I leave a serious invitation. Pessimistic philosophy, the lucid one from the darkness, is not a course for everyone. It's a dive without anesthesia into the hardest truths of existence. Only enter if you're ready. The link is in the description. If you want to support in another way, super thanks also helps a lot. But just by watching, commenting, or sharing, you're already part of this. And here, that matters. Because ultimately, this isn't just about leaving or staying. It's about waking up. It's about refusing to sleepwalk through your one chance at consciousness. It's about being brave enough to admit when your life has become a performance, and radical enough to stop performing. The world will try to convince you that your restlessness is a problem, that your dissatisfaction is immaturity, that your desire to leave is selfish or irresponsible or unrealistic. Don't believe it. Your restlessness is a compass. Your dissatisfaction is clarity. Your desire to leave is your soul refusing to die quietly. Listen to it. Thank you very much.